Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei or Mamang Dei. Question 1. Critical appreciation of the Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei. Mamang Dei's Voice of the Mountain is an exquisite poem. In Voice of the Mountain, the writer speaks like an omnipresent voice, traveling the river, the towns, and the estuary mouth. Dai says that the mountain is like an old man sipping the breeze that is forever young. She says that nature is like an old man who has lived many lives. His voice is like sea waves and mountain peaks. Nature transfers symbols and is a chance syllable that orders the world with history and miracles. In the poem, the mountain narrates the story of its omnipresence. The opening lines from where I sit on the high platform, I can see the fairy lights crisscrossing the big river. The mountain claims to be all knowing. It sees the towns, the estuary mouth, and the bank of the river. The mountains are so ancient that they can outline the chapters of the world. There is a sorrow too related to the mountains as they stand mute witnesses to the pain of an indigenous people. Despite all the slopes that have been climbed and all the familiarity with the terrain, the people cannot talk of victory yet. Why is victory elusive? The mountain takes on different forms throughout the poem and sees all that takes place in a fickle minded universe. It is a silent witness to all the activities of human beings, the birds and the beasts, and even various landforms. The mountain remains an omnipresent leitmotif throughout the poem. Question 2. What is the symbolic role of the mountain in the voice of the mountain? The hills form a common theme of several writers of the northeastern states. Temsulao, Mona Zot, Robin Ngengom, and Y.D. Tongji find it natural to write about mountains with their glory and pristine sublimity. The mountain is not merely another memory of childhood and youth, but forms part of a continuing relationship with the environment. The insularity of the northeastern states are also related to the terrain in which hills and mountains constitute a formidable barrier. The mainland versus hinterland debate follows also from the so-called distance in terms of miles and milestones. The Northeast has been unique in the way it has administered itself over the years. Sujata Miri says that none of the communities in the Northeast conceived of a law of peace which would apply to any other community but themselves. If there was a war, it was always fought within the parameters of certain rules. In such a conflict, the main consideration was the preservation of one's own territory rather than extension of it. Thus, traditionally accepted actions were in consonance with the goal of peaceful coexistence. Question 3. Explain the following lines. I know the towns, the estuary mouth, there, beyond the last bank, where the color drains from heaven. I can outline the chapters of the world. The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dai. The mountain says he knows about the towns and estuary of the rivers. His omniscient view of the landscape makes him appear like the Almighty. Moreover, the mountain points at the sea and says he can see the colors of the sky getting reflected on the sea water. Here he metaphorically outlines the chapters of the world. It might be a reference to the rivers. The metaphor can also refer to the past episodes that the sea observe, observed, as it is also ancient like the mountain. Collectively, they have watched many things that happened in the past. Question 4. Explain the following lines from the poem The Voice of the Mountain. I am an old man sipping the breeze that is forever young. In my life, I have lived many lives. My voice is sea waves and mountain peaks. In the transfer of symbols, I am the chance syllable that orders the world, instructed, instructed with history and miracles. The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei, the poet again comes to the soliloquy of the mountain. The mountain says he is like an old man, who is sipping the forever young breeze to keep his soul fresh. In this section, the poet uses the breeze as a symbol of youthfulness and vigor. Moreover, the mountain says it is the macrocosm of the universe. Within his voice, one can hear the sea waves and the wind circling off the mountain peak. Whereas the language of humans changes gradually, the voice of the mountain doesn't change, it's eternal. According to the poet, it is like the chance label that orders the world. It is the voice of the Creator. In the mountain's ancient language, one can find the history and miracles of mankind. Though, through this reference, the poet associates the concept of the universal language about which Paulo Coelho has talked about in The Alchemist. Question 5. What does the mountain say in the following lines? I am the desert and the rain, the wild bird that sits in the west. In the sixth stanza of The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei, the mountain asserts his universality. He says he has the aridity of the desert and the moisture of the monsoon. The mountain even finds its manifestation in a bird that lives in the west. Several episodes of the past reiterate their importance through the voice of the mountain. Each particle of life that clutched and clung for thousands of years was nothing but the echo of the mountainous spirit. Here the mountain, like an old man who recollects his thoughts while speaking, says, I know, twice to emphasize his wisdom and experience. There is a gift from Mamang Dai to the readers in this simile, as rock snow burning in the sun's embrace about clouds and sudden rain. As for the rocks, the mountain knows about every little thing that occurs in the world. In the line, as I know a cloud is a cloud is a cloud, there is a marvelous use of the pun. The mountain says he knows a cloud is a cloud. Here, the cloud symbolizes uncertainty and pessimism. The poet associates both of the ideas in this repetition. However, However, in the last two lines of the stanza, the mountain refers to the clouds that embrace its heart. Here, the clouds symbolize grievous thoughts. Question 6. What does the poet refer in these lines from the voice of the mountain? In the end, the universe yields nothing except a dream of permanence. Peace is a falsity. A moment of rest comes after long combat. In the seventh stanza of The Voice of the Mountain, Mamangdai refers to the hopelessness at the end of the universe. What remains is a dream of permanence. This dream What remains is a dream of permanence. This dream is what keeps every living embodiment moving with the spirit of the world. Thereafter, the poet uses a paradoxical affirmation that peace is falsity, or daydreams only a moment of rest. Thereafter, the poet uses a paradoxical affirmation that peace is falsity or daydream. Only a moment of rest comes after long combat, whereas the war of life continues. There are only pauses in the sentence of the universe. To live in peace is to live in an illusion. Question 7. Explain the following lines. From the east, the warrior returns with the blood of peonies. I'm the child who died at the age of the world. The distance between end and hope. The star diagram that fell from the sky. The summer that makes men weep. I am the woman lost in translation, who survives with happiness to carry on. In the eighth stanza of The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei, the first two lines are connected using enjambment with the idea of the last stanza. Here, the poet refers to the warrior who returns with the blood of peonies. Such a contrasting image refers to the coexistence of struggle and beauty. Thereafter, the mountain says that his childlike spirit died at the edge of the world, where he stands firmly. Moreover, the poet creates another contrast in the following lines. Here she refers to the star starfit sky and the scorching summer. Moreover, the mountain says he was once a woman, but lost in the translation of time. However, he still survives in eternal happiness. Question 8. Locate and annotate. I am the breath that opens the mouth of the canyon. The sunlight on the tips of trees, there where the narrow gorge hastens the wind. I am the place where memory escapes the myth of time. I am the sleep in the mind of the mountain. The above lines from it's from above lines from the last stanza of the voice of the mountain. The mountain refers to its magnanimity. Magnanimity. He creates a passage for the canyon to breathe. Moreover, he is like the sunlight on the tip of trees. Thereafter, he refers to the narrow gorge where the wind is always in haste. He is also there. Apart from that, the mountain is a place where memory escapes from one's mind. Here, the myth of time does not work. One one loses the track of time as if it halts near the mountain in awe. At last, the poetic persona says she is the sleep that exists in the mind of the mountain. In this way, the poet presents her similarity with the spirit of the mountain. Short questions with answers. What is the theme in the voice of the mountain? The voice of the mountain is nothing but the macrocosmic representation of nature's egalitarianism. The mountain is personified in the poem. It might be a reference to the rivers. The metaphor can also refer to the past episodes that the sea observed, as it is also ancient like the mountain. Question 2. From where I sit on the high platform, who is the speaker here? What does he say here? The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei talks about the mountain in the first line of the poem. The mountain being at a higher platform visualizes everything like God. The mountain says that he can see the fairy lights that cross the big river below, as it is at a distance. The movement of the ferry appears as the crisscrossing light works on the river. The poet uses synecdoche in the fairy lights, and the variety used here is part of for the whole. Question 3. I can outline the chapters of the world. Who is the speaker here? What does he say here? The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei talks about the mountain in the quoted line of the poem. The mountain is personified here. It might be a reference to the rivers. The metaphor can also refer to the past episodes that the sea observed as it is also ancient like the mountain. The answer is same, but it will not in this line. Well, next question. Locate and annotate. We live in territories forever ancient and new, and as we speak in changing languages, the above lines are taken from The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dei. Here the poet talks about a young man. He brought a fish as an offering to the spirit of the mountain as he could not speak. The person thought if the mountain took pity on him, he would grant his voice back. According to the mountain, such acts of pleasing him are repeated. Moreover, he says, as the territories are forever ancient as well as new, there is always a shift. However, the essence remains the same at the end. Question 5. What is known to the mountain according to Mamang Dei? Dai says that the mountain is like an old man shipping the breeze that is forever young. She says that nature is like an old man who has lived many lives. His voice is like sea waves and mountain peaks. Nature transfers symbols and is a chant syllable that orders the world with history and miracles. Question 6. What is the structure of the poem, The Voice of the Mountain? The Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dai consists of 9 stanzas. The line code of each stanza isn't regular. It moves how nature moves without predictability or precision. There is an organic environment just like one can find in nature. The first person persona present in the poem gives it the quality of a spontaneous lyric poem. Moreover, like an ode, the poet meditates on a single theme. It is the voice of the poem and how it expresses itself through the words of humans. However, there isn't any specific rhyme scheme in the poem. The poet creates an internal rhythm in the text for maintaining the flow of the poem. The metrical composition of the poem is also irregular. One can find the use of spondylothic iambic feet and anapstic feet in this poem. Question 7. How is the mountain used as a symbol? The mountain is a symbol of the spirit that guides humanity, redefines the unknown, and last but not least, makes one peaceful. Moreover, the use of imagery and symbolism in the poem makes this poem a wonderful adventure. The voice of the mountain is nothing but the macrocosmic representations of nature's egalitarianism. Question 8. How does Mamang Dai lament the destruction of nature in the poem, The Voice of the Mountain? In the poem, the Voice of the Mountain by Mamang Dai laments the destruction of flora and fauna of the land. She says that nature is just a collective identity of the people, and destruction to nature leads to the distortion of identity. So, we should preserve nature and its ecosystem for the betterment of the society and its identity. In her quest for identity, she uses a number of metaphors like the mystic mountain, rivers, and forest. Okay, that's the end.